Okay, hi everyone. We are doing a Wolfram language design review about historical countries. And this has been one of a long series, and I hope we're finally coming to the end here. So, who wants to start? So, geofunctions without a dated wrapper. And then, okay, let's take a look here. So what is this?
So basically now we wanted to summarize the things that are pending for a final decision.
Yeah,
right,
where's
Cesar?
here? So I mean, if 843, wait a minute, here, that's probably in Illinois, right?
Yes, that's
the state that existed from that period to that period. But that's
okay,
not
wait. Why is historical country not supported? How do I run this?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you to connect to current.
Okay, can I run it in a 13.3 main branch build? Can I run it in the main branch build, or should I be running it in a prototype build?
I tried yesterday and it worked in 13.3, but you need to use current.
Okay, fine. So can somebody take responsibility for getting me to switch back at the end of this?
Sure.
How do I do this?
You have to write it.
In that field?
Yes, yes.
The word current like that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, what on earth does this mean?
Those are the states that at some point included probably Champagne. So the Kingdom of France, the pre-Napoleonic Kingdom of France, you know, before the Louisiana Purchase and things, at one point held that area.
Okay, and we don't have any of the indigenous stuff for the US. That's going to get us into trouble.
But maybe not that.
Yeah, it's very scattered, I think.
Shouldn't we have a default? I mean, we're going to get in trouble with the I mean, you know, it may not have had borders and things like that, but there should be information on, I mean, we could just call it the indigenous, I don't know, America or something. I don't know what.
There have been a lot of attempts to draw different borders and things over time. I don't know what the status of them is, but I think it's a hard problem.
Okay.
And there's similar problems, you know, in lots of other places.
Fair enough. This looks really goofy that we say, because in this place, the Kingdom of France definitely wasn't there in 843 AD. Forget the Vikings. You know, the French had come to
what
America.
Else can it possibly
so that's the dates, not when it was here. That's the full dates of this entity.
By the way, we've not generally used AD, have we, as a specific designator? In the past, right? It just gives a date.
In alpha, we do. In mathematics, in Wolfram language in general, no, that's right. Also in alpha, we have that style, so that's what maybe we are inheriting that because that label is produced in the alpha side, right? So
I'm not sure it's the right thing either.
Well, I think it's, I mean, at least we should not do negative numbers for BC, please.
No, we absolutely should not. That's completely crazy. Alan is not here today, right?
Not yet.
So that's a question for him about AD. But what are we going to do about the fact that it just looks really silly to have that thing saying, you know.
So in the next section, you have probably what you would prefer as an answer.
Right. That was going to be my comment too. Yeah. So that's part of the question, if this is good enough or because we were thinking about only when using the dated wrapper is that you get a dated attributed entity, right?
Yeah.
That's something that we decided before. And before we didn't show these dates in the entities, but that's something you asked some time ago about showing the so that it will be clearer, for example, for this many kingdoms of France or many kingdoms of for these countries that have the same name, right?
Yeah.
The
Well, I
date
mean,
will
so
be-
you're basically trying to tell me, is this thing that we're seeing here a corner case up here, or is it, you know, the let's try one where my knowledge of history is so pathetic, but okay, let's try that where I sort of have some vague idea what it should say. That's weird. That's nice. I mean, that's a good result, basically. What do other people want to say about this? That looks to me like a good result, except that I'm a little bit confused by these multiple.
So these are the different incarnations of Great Britain, right? When it joins Ireland or not. Or...
By the way, let me make a suggestion. Why don't we not use AD after like 1200? Just give the date. Nobody's going to be confused. That would save us from, you know, in terms of.
Or
if
maybe
it's-
if they're both AD, it can just say AD would be another example.
I think that's going to get confusing because I think 260 to 274. No, that's okay. That's
People
all right.
often do
too.
write that. Yeah.
Yeah, they write that. Even for small dates like that. And it's going to be pretty obvious here by the time it's the Gallic Empire. Fine. So the only case it would use it is where
Something
the
is BC.
where something is BC. BC is fine.
Like the first one, for example, the Roman Empire, 27 BC to.
Yeah.
Actually, it's okay to use AD there, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. If you said
No,
27
I
BC,
think I think it reads better. I mean,
Okay,
even if
fine.
you know, yeah,
fine,
yeah.
done. So let's remove it when they're both AD.
Even before the 10th century.
I would argue yes.
I would slightly prefer to leave it when it's earlier. And by the way, your dashes are the wrong kind of dash. Can we figure that out, please?
Sure.
This is something, again, let's put it on the list for Alan. We're going to use it. I have a slight preference to use AD for before 1000 AD, but I'm not certain. Okay.
Yeah, now that I'm looking, I think in Alpha we are using that before the 15th century.
Okay. All right. Okay, fine. Well, maybe we thought about it there. Maybe we should do the same thing here. Okay, it looks stupid for the recent stuff like 1922 to 2023. Do we really want to say to 2023 or do we want to say to present?
Maybe to present, just because if it doesn't get updated, it'll look strange.
Yes. Fine. Let's say to present. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah, yes.
Yep.
Okay. This is a good result. That's a very nice result. This is a funky result.
I
Maybe
think
we just can
they're
treat it as a corner
functionally
case.
the same. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's a corner case. So people will scratch their heads and wonder why it is like that, and that's the way it is. What
Right.
happens if I try, let me just try one here that has, again, different historical kind of pattern. Oh, lovely. I don't know what that is, but you guys presumably know, but I mean, this looks
Yeah,
lovely to me.
these are the print and
That looks great. Great result. Now, but between 900 and 1400, it's just blank, right?
yeah, no major civilization.
Okay, fine. That's fine. But I mean, that's fine. But we think that's a reasonable. By the way, am I saving this somewhere? Do we have a note thing for historical? Yeah, historical
Yeah.
data.
Historical data, yeah.
That looks fantastic. Those are great results. Okay. All right. So what else do we have to figure out? So I think you started on one that's a particularly ugly corner case. Oh yeah, there's a
Right.
comment
So we wanted to
Dan on
show
our
that.
live stream suggesting that the AD and BC will be written in smaller font than the date. That is a good suggestion. I don't see any reason not to do that. Make sense to people?
Yeah, not sure who should we talk about that. Maybe with Tony about this styling of the
Okay,
sublabels.
fine. That's a good suggestion.
There is probably also the question of whether it should be AD or CE.
That's what I want Alan to opine on. We're not going to use CE. There, almost certainly.
Okay.
We are not using that yet in alpha. Of course,
There's
as
no
input
yet.
is.
I mean, we made a decision
Yes, I don't
to
know, but
not do that.
so
because
it's accepted as input, of course, but not,
Yeah, right. Okay. So now, what are these things? So this is, what is this? What does that mean?
When using you identify with an entity that have a date, like a military conflict, it will search the historical country that intersects both in time and space. That was what we concluded, what you concluded in the last meeting.
Okay, so that
So it'll
seems right
essentially
to me.
turn, instead of resolving to just a geoposition, it effectively resolves to a dated geoposition. Is that basically
yeah.
right?
Yes,
That's
yes,
correct.
that would
Right.
be
So if I were to say here, if I were to say this
yeah, position. Right?
dated of London, 1600, for example. What the heck?
Needs to be a date object, I think.
Well, that's wrong. Dated
No, the dated, the second argument of dated.
does not need to be a date object. It can be an integer. This is a bug.
Okay.
Maybe
we'll
try
check
making
that.
it a data object just to see what the bug is.
Okay, it's just a bug. But that's a good result. Right? Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Yes? Makes
Is there
sense
actually,
to me.
given that we're going to have this as the way it resolves certain entities, is there a property for things like the Battle of Zama that would be like the dated position or something?
That's a good suggestion.
Currently, no.
So let's do it. Let's call it, what should we call it? We could call it
I mean,
space
well,
time
one
point.
fear would be that, I mean, every property of it could be dated, right?
Or
But
if we say dated position. And then, because
Right,
this here, if we say position there, it'll say that. And now what we hopefully will get is if we say, and we say date. Oh, for God's sake, what is the right term? What is the right thing?
probably like start date or end date or something.
Okay, so now if I say geo-identify dated of, I'm just checking that this works, so I assume it will work.
Your quotes or
I didn't know the Battle of Waterloo was on Sunday. Who knew? Great. That worked.
So this dated position will return a dated wrapper with the geoposition and the date,
Exactly.
or a date interval in case it's more than one date, right?
Exactly. So we'll return this object. Okay.
Yeah, potentially could be a date interval, right? Because end date could
Absolutely
be
can be a date interval. Absolutely. And I assume that GeoIdentify works with date intervals, right?
Yes, we are supporting that.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, if I say something like, well, here I won't even try it. I assume it'll work. Okay. All right. Now let's just talk about this case here.
So this case and the previous one is in case you only feed input the geoposition. So
Okay.
if you identify the Battle of Sama position, you get this result. But also we have this geovariant of union that it's equivalent to get any polygon of the historical countries that intersects with the position of Battle of Sama.
That's a very obscure name.
Which one?
Is this
Union?
what we figured out last time to do this?
Yes, we changed that to union, the name. But of course, we can still
No,
change
wait. So, and we decided to use GeoVariant for this, as opposed to using for this. The other thing I could imagine doing here would be to say historical country here, and then to say something like dated of this, comma, all. See what I'm saying? In other words, to have dated be like one of our wrappers that inserts its own content from the outside.
Sure if that makes sense totally. So you are thinking that all will override the fact that Battle of Sama is in a specific
Exactly.
date. But we are using all in a different way.
For
For the
dated?
first argument, yes. If you look at this next section, this all means to search in all the time of the entities. So maybe that could be confusing.
I'm supporting this more than I'm supporting this. This is really obscure to me. Christopher, do you have a comment on this one?
No, I don't really know. I mean,
Do you understand what it does?
So
yeah, I think so. It's basically saying find all the historical countries, but where, right, each historical country is, the full time prism thing, right? Extended infinitely in time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what, right. But I don't know why it's called union.
I mean, that's the thing we talked about a lot last time, I think.
Right, because maybe it's clear that the previous one to this union that is basically take the position of Battle of Sama and search for any historical country that is.
I know that's what it's doing, but why is it called union?
Well, I think it's supposed to be the union of all of the, that's right. There were many different polygons for example, the Roman Republic over time. And so you want to find, right, you want the polygon that represents the union of all of the Roman Republic polygons, which is different than, for example, the largest extent polygon or something like that.
Right, but you're doing two things here. You're doing that, the union polygon, and then you're unioning over time.
No, but you're not, because the point is that basically the union polygon is a non-temporal polygon.
Yes.
Right. And so it's assumed to be extending infinitely in time.
Okay, I think it's a terrible name for this.
Well, no. Wait, here's the context. This is where we came up with this name. Is what if you say essentially, right, if you want to say geovariant of Roman Republic, comma, union, get me the polygon. That's supposed to give you the union polygon, right? As opposed to if you say largest extent or something like that. This is just a logical consequence of that working.
Yeah.
You understand? We have different geovariants.
No, I understand. I understand what that's doing. It's saying it's a time-independent polygon.
No, right, but I'm just saying, think about it in the other context, in the context of of you just
Entity
want to
value.
get the maximum extent polygon or the union polygon or the polygon at this particular date, then union is a fine word to refer to the union of all the places it's ever.
Right. I just
These
think it's very,
borders.
very, very confusing in that geo-identify case. Why did it say that? Why did it say this? Why did it say that?
Should work.
Well, in general, you have to say polygon of Roman Republic, don't you?
But maybe I need to say geolist plot. No, it just didn't work. Okay, so that should work. Do we agree?
Yes, it should work. Yes.
Okay, all right, so that's a bug. But let's look back at that geovariant thing here. Retrieving this. You see, I would argue that the return value here should be a list of geovariants. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? So to be consistent,
I see. Yes. That's something that we talked some time ago, and we never agree on that fully because we had this of the full map area and principal area, etc. And we
no,
are
I know,
still
but the
working on
return
that.
value here, I think, would be much less confusing. There it is. Just a few of them, just to show what we're talking about, see what it would look like. I mean, we could print it differently. I really think it should say that it should look like that, because that's the consistent thing to do. Because then if you say, make a plot of this, you're going to get the right result, as opposed to getting completely bonkers result.
I agree. And we will do that also for the other geovariants, right? For
Yes.
the regular geovariants for country, etc.
Yes. So now, I mean, we could consider a different format here where it's a subscript union or something like that. We should consider that. Am I making sense?
Just to improve the formatting of geovariant. Yeah.
Yeah, just for the
Yes.
formatting of geovariant. Now the question is, so this makes more sense to me. We're saying, show me, identify a geovariant historical, a union geovariant historical country relevant to this. That makes more sense. Christopher, any comments on this?
Not really.
Okay. Does it seem silly to you?
So you mean to the way you have it? I'm sorry, I'm confused. You mean the way you have it threaded over the?
I want to make
output,
sure
for
we
the output.
return. What's that? For the output. Okay. I'm going to assume this makes sense. Let's move on. Okay.
Because we are already doing that for dated, for example. We are returning dated as
A wrapper, right?
as a
So
wrapper in there.
just a
Yes.
different wrapper, right? Okay. So, this calendar thing looks really pretty stupid here. I have to say, with years, I have to believe that we'd be better, that date interval could display more sensibly here. But in any case, okay, so let's understand what this is. What does this mean? Oh, that's dated.
Through all history, yes.
Right. So wait, let me see if I remember this right. Oh, wait, no, that's not the geovariant. It's okay. Does that represent the countries as their kind of the space-time blob, if you know what I mean?
This is the space-time blob.
And selecting one of these slides.
Now, what happens if one of these countries intersected here for a certain time, but not for other times? Then that will be reflected in this date interval. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, for example, if I don't even know what. Well, in the US, for example, let's try this.
Right, so this is
Let's
essentially
say-
representing the intersection between the various space-time blobs and an infinite line representing here, but then going
Yes,
into
I think so.
Yes, yes,
So-
exactly that. Yeah.
So if I say this, and then I say Denver.
actually a good one. Well, you should try that, but you should try London because it'll be nice because it'll leave the Roman Empire, but then it'll come back. for
Okay.
example.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Is it right? I think it's probably right. Let's try London. But
One
by the
thing
way,
that's a
we should
little
be paying
strange-
attention to these examples because we're making up some reasonable examples here.
One thing that's a little strange is because, but I don't know how to avoid it, is the date interval for the US for that last one is higher granularity because it's trying to get to today for the present end.
Yes, date interval doesn't support different granularity between the start and end.
Right. I don't know what the solution would be. It just seems slightly strange. I
And it
just
doesn't
wonder if
support
there-
a symbol like today as ending.
Well,
Mhm.
maybe we need that. I mean, that's a Jose thing. Maybe
It-
we need a
well,
present
Yeah, it
now
can be
and
extended.
forever type thing.
Yep.
A present keyword or something like that.
Okay, so wait a minute. This goes.
Oh, wait, they do.
I don't understand this.
I-
This
I-
is
I-
wrong.
Oh,
wait,
wait,
Look at
actually,
this.
I think
This
it's
is wrong.
missing. I think it's actually missing the second branch of the Roman Empire.
Yeah, but there's something else that's more seriously wrong. This
What?
here says beginning 52 BC, and it's not saying BC, and it should here. That's another
That's-
date interval
that's-
bug.
No,
That's
that's a
AD.
Oh, that's AD. Sorry, that's
Yeah.
AD.
You're supposed to be British.
Okay, wait a second. I understand. So this is London was
So
not
this is
part
like
of the Roman Empire until 52 AD. That seems very implausible.
I think that's about right.
I think it's right.
Under
the starting. Is fine.
audience.
I think with Claudio.
You mean
I-
I didn't know that the Romans only dealt
Julius
with the very,
Caesar was hanging around there in like the 40s BC, but then he left.
Mhm.
But there is a bug here though, which is I think that this is the first date interval there for the Roman Empire is the first date it was part of the Roman Empire and the last date, but it's missing the fact that when the Gallic Empire was broke
Exactly.
off, it was
yes,
separate.
Yes, you're correct.
Yes, and
That
date
is a
interval
bug.
supports multi-interval, so that can be expressed.
okay. So then it would say Roman Empire and then a disjoint date interval here, and then the Gallic Empire here.
yes,
Right.
that would be the right answer. Exactly that. Yeah.
Okay. I really do think there's a formatting here that could be improved with the date interval and maybe we need a different format for date intervals. I mean, this beginning and through just seems very ponderous.
It might have been nice to show like at least in some cases the dash like we do with the entities above, but it is actually nice like in several of these the way that you can kind of compare the dates above and below, especially if they line up.
Yeah. I think we just need to look at I just think this little calendar thing is kind of like, especially as it's offset from the plus sign and things, it's kind of like, it's cute, but do we really need it?
Probably not. It was inherited from date object, which had it in the past, and we removed it from date object. But
Then we should remove it here.
and through is there because there was the discussion of whether the last date was included or not. And according to
Yeah.
Nick, through indicates that it is included.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. But I mean, I'm not sure that for these things, if we just have a dash, But this kind of stuff, it's sensible. I don't understand a lot of this. I don't understand this. Well, the lack of the disjoint things. What is that, by the way? And my total lack of British history knowledge. What is that? Is that like Wales took over England or something? Well, nobody knows. Christopher, you don't know what that thing is?
Some Anglo-Saxon
Don't.
group. Oh no, it's 1200.
The Irish. Irish. Well, who knows? Hopefully it's correct. Okay, so again, this is, I don't understand this notation here. This is a way of forcing this thing to have date intervals. And that's sort of consistent with what we're doing here, forcing it to show its geovariant.
Yes. So for data, because that's a new thing, we talked that a bit last time, that in the first argument that would mean that we will show that in the output.
Okay, so let's just check some consistency here. If I do this and I say dated Denver, I'm going to put in a date object here, even though I shouldn't need to. Horrible granularity, but correct result. That granularity is absolutely horrible. Right? We agree?
Yes.
Yes, that should inherit the same granularity as the input. Yeah.
Okay, but the result is sensible here. Yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, let's keep going here. Yeah, okay, you have this case there. What happens if I say no?
For now, the only domains with historical information are historical country and military conflict.
But we do know for
They're
buildings, we
dates.
know when they were built.
Not for many. That's why we haven't added them yet to the historical.
Okay, but Alan certainly knows. Did Alan join us yet?
Actually,
Which? Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna ask, do we have a decision? Because I remember last time there was some questions about whether we care about the start date or the end date.
Well, what?
Well, for things like buildings would be a hard one. For military conflicts, I guess it's you do it the start and end date of the military conflict. But for the buildings, I think we had a begin construction and end construction date.
I don't think we should do. I think we should do when the building exists, because we have a destruction date for buildings as well.
So
By the way, notice
construction
In a few cases, but yeah.
destruction.
What's that?
So saying, so in that case, it would be construction finished to destruction date.
I think it should be construction started to destruction date.
Okay.
This is perhaps related to the duration project,
Yes.
synchronizing the fact that duration on entities gives.
Yes, but I think there are plenty of other entities where, I mean, what other entities there? We've inventoried this before. For example, for the duration project, what things have that? What happens if I do this? I'm just going to watch and see if there's a bug. Why is that saying column? the hell is that? What is that?
I think Landing Site is trying to produce a map.
That's crazy. It shouldn't be doing that. It shouldn't be doing that. It's just wrong. That's a bug. So another bug. Okay. But that splatteroo. What should we do in this case? I mean, that's just a bug, what it's doing right now, but I'm making sense. I mean, that's a valid geoposition, right?
Right, but anyway, you identify doesn't support moon as datum.
I know, I realize that. I'm asking, disgorging some internal error message seems
Yeah, we
bad.
should remove that. Yes, yeah, sure, sure. The bug is that we should only say your identifier doesn't support the moon. Yeah.
Well, okay, Christopher, anybody else? What should it do? What is the historical country that is the moon?
I think it should just return an empty list. There's no historical country that contains that position.
Fine, let's do it that way. No reason to give an error message. Now let me try the next obvious thing. Got multiple things to try here.
Isn't that a naval battle?
It is.
I don't know how close to the coast it was.
Good. That's a good answer.
Right. For the moon, I'm not sure yet if it's fine to say that it's empty list.
I think it should be empty. It is not a country.
Some other geofunctions will emit messages sometime of the form incompatible geomodels or bodies.
But there's nothing particularly incompatible about it, right? I mean, it's just, you just want to say, like, I mean, right, you could imagine that there could be a country on the moon, and you want
Yes.
to answer.
Right, exactly. Just hasn't been set up that way yet. By the way, when I said South Pole, why did it come back with Antarctica? Did you see that? I said South Pole. That's just wrong. South Pole is a continent? That's just crazy. Well, anyway, that's a separate bug. Right, Jose, etc.
Yes, that's
Yes.
about linguistics.
Right. But and what about exclusive economic zones and so on? Do we have that data now?
We are working on them. Actually, today they started adding that to current, but it's not yet deployed. So
Okay, but so we're ignoring EZs for purposes of historical countries. Is that true?
yeah, for historical countries, we don't have them definitely.
Well, I understand we don't have them for historical. Okay, fine. But even if we did, we don't consider that the country anyway.
No, not really.
Well, actually,
So-
if we do a geo-identify for a country, are we going to have a geovariant? Okay, what is the correct thing to do? You have something 5 miles off the coast of wherever, the US, let's say.
We have discussed other times having maritime borders, some sort of another geovariant.
Yeah, that
And-
seems like the right thing to do.
And that could be also, we are still discussing if that should be the default for you identify. So at least the
Yeah,
the
that's not obvious to me. I think probably not. I think it's confusing. I don't know if Christopher has an opinion about this. If it's in the ocean, it's not part of the country unless you ask for a geovariant that includes maritime borders.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
In my opinion, we should use the maritime borders because I mean, it has been reported that people ask for a point in the Hudson Bay, and we say it's not in the US. And also because the maritime borders are going to be much simpler polygons. So doing computations with them will be faster.
Well, but then, well, I guess the only thing about that, I mean, that's fair. But the one concern might be that it might be a little strange if we use one polygon to be the default that you that geographics uses and a different one for like geoidentify. Nothing else I can imagine people
Yeah.
being confused because they make a graphic of the polygon and they say, hey, that point clearly isn't in this polygon. Why is geoidentify disagreeing?
I think it's a separate thing. Let's wait until we've got the economic zone data. Then we have to figure this out. So what can we do? Is there some graphic that we can make? So if I took these and I said, if I took, okay, so if I take this, I want to see what it does. If I take this and I say, after it produced that, I say geographics or geolist plot. What am I going to get? Am I going to get a bunch of overlapping things with Tunisia and things like that?
Some of these are recent extensions, so I'm not sure the full geo framework is prepared to support it.
Why is it taking forever here?
Well, it's grabbing the polygons for the specific date intervals.
Okay. It doesn't show a progress indicator or anything. By the way, why is the dynasty in lowercase d and the caliphate a capital C? Anybody? Is that just a mistake?
Cesar,
Yes.
do you know if that's from curation or
That
what?
was a discussion we had with Alan. And
No, look, it's not consistent. That's dynasty is with a capital D, that one is with a lowercase d, so something is wrong. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Looks just like a mistake. Okay, why is this just literally not coming back and not showing any progress monitor? Well, let's keep going to the rest of the discussion, see what we're.
I do think it would be good. This is a bit off topic, but I think it would be good if GeoList plot had some sort of performance goal or something. Maybe it already does, and I just don't know about it. But I
That
feel
would be nice. It doesn't.
it's
I think,
often
right
much
now.
slower than, like, if you're just doing a bunch of points, it's often, I think, slower than, you know, geographics of point, for instance.
What is it doing here? What the heck is it doing here?
I think it's doing an entity value called per object, and probably
Which is
it's
wrong.
Yeah, it is slow. I would abort it.
I want to just do then, let me just do geolist plot, take %27, 4 or something. Come on, it must have downloaded those by now.
But I'm not sure it's downloading anything.
What's it doing?
These dated with date intervals, etc., are very recent objects. So I don't think the geo framework is prepared to handle them yet.
So this is a bug, so it needs to be fixed. Okay. I'm just trying to understand what I mean, this is a very cool result, but how do we visualize it? Okay, so it just had no idea what to do. So what about if I say timeline plot of this? Presumably if I say timeline plot
a bunch of geo things.
of that,
Yeah, okay, sure.
then it will work. Okay. And
Does
how
it work
about if I
say timeline plot of %27?
what's that?
Does it work to say timeline plot of %27?
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure exactly what that would do, but maybe it would, you know.
No, the answer is no. It could label them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of interesting, not completely convincing, but
Don't we have a way of, like, if you give timeline plot an association or something, it will
yes.
nice labels. Presumably dated kind of has similar semantics to an association like that.
Okay. This should work. In my view. Does that make sense?
Why, how that will work?
But we'll just assume that the date interval is uniform.
No, but
I mean,
your histogram is for a entity or a polygon or something. So it's missing the.
No, this date interval, list of date intervals, geohistogram. Oh, I didn't mean that. I mean date histogram. I'm totally wrong. Oh. What
Oh,
the
that's
heck?
really cool. That works. Does that actually take into like it actually knows about the fact that there's continuity in the intervals or something? It's not just turning them into their start date or something.
I don't know.
I don't know. That would be a
Should
question
find
for
out.
Brett.
Wait, the fact
That's
that there
very
are
suspicious. Look, this labeling is stupid, and the fact that it goes to 2058 is unconvincing.
could you actually do for the granularity if you set it to like 10 years or something for date histogram? I'm not sure you need to put in a list like that, but okay.
I think this is going to give a very lot, but also please, the axis is completely crazy here.
For me over Zoom, your window just went black.
Yes, or same.
Oh no.
What?
Maybe.
Something is frozen here.
Oh no.
I hope that's not the new crazy annotation of okay, this needs to be reported right away to Brett. It's very dead. It's very, very, very dead. Am I still, can you still hear me?
Or just several what you can hear you, but several windows on your computer just turned black.
How can you see more than one window? I only had one on the screen.
Or like the window, and then also there's something at the top that went black, and yeah.
My gosh,
I think that's the Zoom controls.
Ah, yes.
this is really dead. I can't move around in this window. I can't get to the, I mean, my computer is basically crashed here.
Can you not command option escape?
Oh, no, now it came back. It just came back. Oops, now when I unshared, it came back.
You
But
might
when I
want to
shared
abort
again,
though.
I know. I'm trying to abort. Oh, now, oh gosh. Okay, this needs to be reported immediately because this, I think, is exactly what I was afraid of with the new stuff with 13.3. The new annotation stuff for 13.3 is making this go crazy. Am I making sense? Who can report that?
I can take over that.
But it needs to be done within the next hour, right?
Yeah, okay,
To Brett, make sure they have this notebook, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
sure.
It shouldn't need that amount. Well, whatever. Dated. We should just be able to give a list 1700, 1800 within dated, right? To specify an interval. Does that make sense?
Not sure because that could be confusing with the date list.
But doesn't dated have, I'm saying dated, right? Dated of thing, comma, 1700, 1800. Why is that a date list? That's not a
That
date
would
list.
be a date
Dated
list
doesn't
of.
take a date list. Dated doesn't take date lists.
Okay.
Maybe this is already supported in dated. I don't remember,
I don't think it is.
but I think it should be.
The thing is with that format, if you put, for instance, like year, I don't know, 3 and year 5, it would be confusing if it's referring to
No, it will not be.
years.
Read what date it says. It does not support that.
Oh, okay.
Right? It doesn't support that. That's why I suggested it. It does for date object, but it doesn't for dated. So this should be able to work. Okay, geo functions using dated date. What? I see that. That's fine.
That's what we have been already doing before. Yes.
Right, but that's not what should be necessary. That's nice. Right, that's using a low granularity data object, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's some formatting stuff with data interval. There's some details here, there's some bugs, but otherwise this is looking great. And I am thinking, you know, in terms of when you get an output like this, what can you really do with it? Did you understand what I'm asking? You know, are there visualizations, further computations? What should you be doing with it? Like, for example, do we have a notion of capital cities for an empire and so on? Do we have that information?
I don't think so. So you mean the capital cities of historical country?
Yeah.
The history of capital cities, right?
Yeah. Might be an interesting
It's
thing
always
to
well
look up.
defined.
What's that?
I don't think that's always well
It's
defined.
not always well defined. But I don't know what else we might. I mean, I'm just wondering, what do you do with this list? It's a very nice list, but what do you do with it? Okay, let's wrap this meeting up then. But so in terms of what we want to see going forward, we will need to see this one more time, but probably in some as part of some other meeting, because there's not much more. There's some formatting stuff and bug fixing and so on. But this is looking great. Anything else we want to discuss here? Jose, anything else?
No, I was thinking of how to support all these entities with dated and geovariant of union in geographics, but we can do something and then.
Okay, fine. And
present
then
it to
let's
you.
figure out the inventory of things with dates and positions.
Mhm.
Great. Did Alan show up or not?
No, he didn't.
Nope. Okay. All right. See you guys. Very nice stuff. It's great to see this finally work.
Yep,
Okay.
thanks.
Bye.